You now with our senior Washington correspondent, Dan Raviv. And Dan, good evening to you. So what can you tell us about this report of a failed North Korea ballistic missile launch?
Erica, communist North Korea hasn't yet announced the launch, and if it really was a failure, perhaps North Korea never will. But a South Korean news agency, having heard from South Korea's military, says there was a missile that went up early Saturday morning Korea time, went up from North Korea and splashed down into the Sea of Japan. Our partners at ABC News have heard from U.S. officials who say that that missile flew for 20 or 25 miles, maybe for about 15 minutes, and is believed to have spun out of control. That's happened before. Now, was this missile a threat to U.S. ships or to Japan or to the United States? Well, probably not. There's no thought that it was a long-range missile designed to go all the way to the mainland U.S., but still it shows North Korea's defiance just hours after the U.S. warned at the United Nations that North Korea had better stop its missile and nuclear programs. Erica and David?
Dan, good point to underscore that this was not an ICBM, more of a Scud type of missile that will not travel that far. Nonetheless, does the Trump administration make any sort of difference or distinction between them in terms of demanding that North Korea not do this?
Frankly, no, and that's because it is clear to U.S. officials that North Korea intends to continue with both programs, missile development and creating more nuclear bombs. Its goal would be to put a nuclear warhead on a missile that could reach the U.S. one day. President Trump is on the record saying the United States will never permit that. As you know, the U.S. is hoping that China will restrain the North Koreans, but the U.S. also is making military threats. And a person very close to President Trump, who was with him before and after the headline-making Reuters interview, says that according to Mr. Trump, he's never been more serious about something he sees as a threat that prior U.S. administrations did not do enough about. Erica and David.
And so, Dan, does it seem to you that maybe there are clear military options being planned at this point? What do we know about any details there?
Well, probably just the usual. To be frank, that's what the Pentagon does. It prepares attack plans and defense plans. There are 80,000 U.S. military in South Korea and Japan, and more naval vessels than usual are there. But everyone's very reluctant to even speak about going to war because of the damage that would be done, especially to the U.S. ally, South Korea.
And Dan, what happens now? I mean, suppose it's confirmed, of course, a Scud type of missile. Does the Trump administration now go to China and others and say, look, here's the evidence. Now it's time for you to tighten the screws in terms of sanctions and restrictions on North Korea?
Sure, and I know we'll have more details on I24 News as to what the U.S. is proposing, but it is that no country on earth helped the North Korean economy in any way. Now the Trump administration is talking about sanctions against companies and countries that do business with North Korea. The thought is to strangle the North Korean economy. Sure, it's already weak, but to really show the U.S. is serious, and yes, that does include the military threat. David and Erica.
Dan Raviv, our senior Washington correspondent. Dan, thank you very much. And you